what we hope everybody gets out of this is that analytics is a really, really, really important function that, really in anything. It doesn't matter what it is. A lot of people undervalue this. They don't utilize it, and it's mostly because they don't understand it. And so we're not going to really dive into, the real fine-tuned nitty-gritty stuff today. But what I'm hoping to do is really engage you, compel you to want to take an interest in it. Ultimately, if you need help, call me. I'll walk you guys through this stuff. But it's that important. It's that important to me that, you guys understand what it is that you're getting, the value that your marketing program brings. And it really doesn't matter. A lot of people think, oh, well, I'm doing a newspaper ad. That can't be tracked. Yep, it can. Every single thing can be tracked. Your website is oftentimes that first, if you will, dynamic visual that somebody has with your business. And so really anything can be tracked because anything can be sent there. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about goals, metrics, stuff like that. Collin's going to present on social media, so he has an awesome set of slides to go through with that. But other than that, let's rock and roll. So, wrong button. There we go. All right. So understanding analytics. So there's more to than just Google. Obviously, Bing, Yelp, everything has its own set of analytics. I can understand, and I can tell you from a marketing perspective, it does get really, really frustrating when we have so many different numbers being thrown around. And so what we're going to concentrate on here is just the main ones today. So Google Analytics, Bing Webmaster Tools, Yelp, and Facebook, or social media, however you want to look at that. So what does it all mean? Your analytics are one of the most important components of a successful strategy. And it's not even just a strategy, it's really your business. Gone are the days where you take out a yellow page ad or a newspaper ad, and that can literally make or break your business. That's just not the world we live in today. The coronavirus has sent us into left field. So to say digital is the single most important thing, it's probably an understatement. Now, that's where consumers go. It doesn't matter what business you're in. It doesn't matter how somebody used to find you. People are going online. And why? It's not just because they need your products and services. It's that, oh, I forgot their phone number, or oh, I forgot their address, or whatever the case may be. They're looking to see, are you open for business now? So there's a ton of opportunity. And so that's what data can help drive, is to tell us what those opportunities are, where we're slacking, where can we improve upon, and, what our successes are. Because again, we want to highlight some positive right now. So the other thing that analytics brings to the table is an unbiased review. So in my career, I've been on the corporate marketing side of things. I know what that's like. I know what it's like to send a client a report that is, I don't want to say doctored, that's not the right word, but I think you all get what I'm going at, is that in a corporate marketing role, you can send a client anything you want to put together to make yourself look good, right? That's the name of the game, is that you want to show and share successes. I'll give you an example. We have many clients, but client had a previous marketing company, again, big corporate. And it was ironic. She came to me and she said, Chris, hey, our sales are down, our numbers are down, and I'm just not understanding why. Everything that they're telling me is that their stuff looks great, but I just don't get it. Can you help me understand? So I said, sure, let's take a look. Come to find out, the reporting is completely auto-generated from the company, meaning that they're deciphering what data they want to show that client. And at the end of the day, sure, it looked good on paper. I mean, then arguably that company was doing some good things. But when we look at the big picture, there was actually more harm being done than good. And so that's why I say this is your neutral third party. This is Google. They don't care what you're doing. They don't care who you're doing it with. It's analytics. That's what they bring to the table, is the true measure of data for your website. I've had clients tell me, well, hey, I get a report from GoDaddy, or I get this, or I get that. Well, that's great. That's one piece of the pie, but what else are you missing? There's so much to these platforms. Again, it's going to be on you to really understand what these bring. So when we look at this, again, the concepts we're going to cover today, analytics, that's going to be a big one. Webmaster Tools, briefly Yelp, love them or hate them, we're going to talk about them. And then again, Facebook and Instagram. So let's rock and roll. So why should you care? Every business always wants to understand the why. So if you're going to throw something at them, I don't care if it's $1,000 ad campaign or a newspaper ad, whatever. Why should we do this? What's our benefit behind it? So the analytics, the why behind analytics is really actually simple. Why should you invest here versus there? It helps you make better decisions as a business. So in the past, let's just say, and I've been a part of these focus groups, I've been part of, questions, brand, interviews, all sorts of stuff. And you sit back and you listen to nothing but perception. That is at the root of all evils for marketing. Perception. When you make decisions based on perception, no data to go off of. It's all, well, I think this. You know what? I think the sky's blue today. Tomorrow, I think it's white. It's just an opinion. Data actually guides that decision. It tells us what our historicals are. So that's your why. The whys will guide you through this. I've had clients come to me and say, hey, I'm having the best year ever. I had one auto shop say they're up 50K from last year. This time last year, they're up $50,000 a month. And we look at that and we're like, wow, pat ourselves on the back. I'll take that. Not going to take all the credit, but the data shows us their web traffic's up. Everything looks good. They can make better strategic decisions. They've literally pulled money from other sources because we've reviewed the analytics. We've looked at what that brought to the table, and we've determined, again, hey, this just didn't work out. It's nothing personal. Not that those companies don't have great products. It just wasn't for you. No big deal. A common claim is that most businesses think most of their traffic comes from repeat and referral. I hear it constantly. That may be true. You may get some of your traffic from repeat and referral, but if you look at statistics, arguably you're losing 7 to 10% of your client base a year for 100 different reasons, moving, death, you name it. And so that number has to be replenished from somewhere. And it's typically not just from additional referrals. I will tell you, one of the best client marketers that I have is on this seminar today. It's Cheryl. That woman impressed me so much when I first met her. She literally has it down. I'm telling you, I've never met a client like her. She can tell you down to the dollar how much she's made on business to business breakfasts. You name it, networking groups, chambers of commerce. She can literally tell you where her investments were making her the most money. And one of those wasn't digital marketing, really. She does phenomenal on that networking side. Now, arguably, if we look back, I would, and maybe she'll support this, maybe she won't. Cheryl, back me up, something. But now when we look at the big picture, I would venture to say digital marketing is probably a bigger portion of that pie. So again, analytics will guide that light. So let's look into Google Analytics. Again, the first thing that I bring to light is that it is complicated. It is not easy. I'm the first one to admit it. It takes a lot of work to, understand it, but it is worth your time and your investment, because once you learn it, they change stuff every now and then, but it's not that much different. There's a few very key places that you want to look, and it'll give you the majority of the data that'll help you drive your decision. Now, if you're really technical, you want to nerd out on it, there's tons of free courses out there. They'll give you free tutorials. They'll teach you analytics as well. You can set goals, conversion metrics, you name it, to really, get granular with it. But I would say for the average business owner, step one is just understand what you're looking at. Just get the basics of where your traffic's coming from, how much is coming to your site, and what does that look like. Over time, you can start perfecting that with training, so on and so forth. Peter Drucker, if you know who he is, arguably considered the founder of modern business, if you will, says if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. And I tell you what, if I could put that quote on my wall, which I probably could if I wanted to, but it should be there, because without data, it is impossible.
Okay, Chris, I think you probably froze up there. Give it a second.
On your site. Oh, did you lose me?
No, you kind of froze up there, but go ahead and maybe repeat the last 5 seconds.
5 seconds without a funny face. Got it. So a lot of clients think that they can't show or they can't drive value behind doing things like billboards or newspapers. And it's amazing what you can do with a targeted landing page. So if you've ever seen those websites that, I've seen them on billboards, I've seen them all over the place where it says, visit trinitychiroaz.com/promo. That's a landing page. And that landing page is usually promo specific. And so that way that user can track, or that client, can track what traffic is actually being driven based on that promotion. Key is, don't list that page in your navigation. I've seen that one screw data up. But again, there's easy ways to measure these sources by just doing stuff like that, creating a little landing page for it, have a specific promo or a unique content on that page, and voila, there you go. You got traffic. So tracking performance and progress makes analytics really invaluable to people like me. HubSpot says 61% of respondents say generating traffic and leads is their most significant marketing challenge. So how do you know what you're doing right and wrong? You have to look at, it's not just a matter of a client telling you, hey, this is working. Yeah, how do you know? Data will tell you. So without going through this entire fun little slide here, we're going to actually look at some analytics here. So I actually brought up my site. And so I just want to highlight a couple things. Like I said, we're not going to go into everything. There's way too much data to go through, but I want to just kind of go over a couple of key points here. So when we look at this, this is just showing a little 7-day window of my traffic. And so again, if you're like me and you nerd out, I got the app on my phone, I monitor it. I don't want to say constantly, but it is an obsession. But again, I have certain goals and metrics set up to where I can track this a little bit more detailed maybe than the average bear. The other thing that I want to point out here is if you come down, again, you'll have the same analytics dashboard I will. You can look at your real-time data here. If you want to look at your audience, you can look at demographics. I mean, there's tons of, information that Google will offer you in terms of that. But really, it's going to be that acquisition. That's really what I care about. I want to know, how are people getting to my website? So when we look at this over the last 7 days, again, we can see here, I've had 28 users that have been tracked here, 24 of them being new, 33 sessions. So that means when we look at this big picture, 28 people have come to the site. 24 of those have been new users. So my strategies are generating a lot of new business for me. When we look at that bounce rate here, bounce rate tells us, and again, Google's very transparent. It says the percentage of single page sessions in which there was no interaction with the page, a bounce session duration of 0 seconds. So statistically, it's actually 0 to 3 seconds, 0 to, I think it's 3 seconds. But again, Google will tell and explain to you what each of these columns are so that you can help make sense of it. Average session or average pages viewed per session. So that means the average person visits 1.67 pages, which is great. Anything over 1 is good. And average session duration, the average user spends 2 minutes and 37 seconds on my site. So again, this is just a 7-day roll-up. We typically don't use 7 days as a metric for marketing. We look at 30 to 60 days because that's a true unit of measure to really, base something of substance off of. But once we get the overview, we can actually come down here and see what our sources are. And so again, some of them will make sense, some of them won't. You'll get referrals from other clients. We run ads in a variety of places, so on and so forth. But the real value is you can actually start looking at these analytics and you can start understanding, well, hey, I see Baidu, which God knows why Baidu shows up on mine, but that's actually a Chinese search engine. And so when we look at this, 3 users, 3 new, Lord knows what China's doing on my website. Lord, that scares me. But nonetheless, you can see the bounce rate's 100%, probably a bot. You can see they're going to the homepage and that's it. And they're not spending any time on the site. If that flip side was an advertising source, so that was, we'll make something up, 123leads.com, and that's what they were generating for me, yeah, they'd be fired tomorrow. When we look at this, now UpCity is an advertising source we pay for. It's $150 a month. In the last 7 days, they've generated 17 leads for me, or 17 users to the site, 15 of them being new. 63% bounce rate, which means the majority of the traffic's not great, but again, I'll take it. That's pretty decent. Average user spends 2 minutes on the site. That's a win. That's worth my investment right there. So again, you can look at this stuff and you can start making better decisions. So I would encourage, though, try to do that 30 to 60 day view. Don't look at it every 7. Don't get on your phone like I do and wonder, why did my site traffic drop 17% from yesterday? There's going to be tons of fluctuations. And right now with COVID, anything's game. Let's just say that. So other metrics or other sources, or let's just say places I want you guys to look at here. Again, Google Ads, if you're running pay-per-click, hopefully they've linked that to your Google Analytics if you're using a third-party provider. Some of them, now I'll just tell you right up front, sometimes that's not possible. And so don't freak out if it's not. Google Ads, if you have an enterprise account like we do, unfortunately, we can't share that access. And it's only because we have other accounts on that enterprise account and we can't give you access to other people's accounts. So if that makes sense. But if you're running them on your own, connect them right there. Google Search Console, that'll be a whole nother conversation. We also got social here. You can look at your social metrics, what's being generated from that, so on and so forth. So like I said, tons and tons and tons of information in here. The most important one, if it's me, I always look at my all traffic. I always want to see what are my sources, what's bringing in traffic, so on and so forth, and we go from there. But this is kind of a real brief overview of Google Analytics. So most clients will ask at this point, well, how do I get Google Analytics on my site? It's actually super, super easy. You just Google Analytics. Most website, if you don't have a web host or somebody, a webmaster that deals with your website, most of the time, GoDaddy's, all of them, in your SEO settings, the main SEO settings from your website, it'll ask you for a Google Analytics code. That analytics code is right up here. Once you set it up, it'll give you a UA code that looks like this. That is the code that you just simply place into those web builders, and boom, now it'll start measuring traffic. And it usually takes anywhere from, give or take, 14 days on average to really generate anything usable for you. And then there you go, you're off to the races. So I really hope this helps. I hope it inspires you to want to look further. And like I said, if you guys have any questions on this, just for the sake of time, reach out to me after the session and we'll walk through yours specifically. But it's really not as complicated as you might think it is. So going back here, Bing Webmaster Tools. So again, in the sake of time, we're going to kind of fly through Bing Webmaster Tools. It's actually super, super easy. It's actually, in my opinion, easier than Google. Google offers more information. Bing offers more tools and resources. Bing is very transparent, just like Google is. But again, Bing is more about improving or helping you improve your website. Google's more about you understanding the analytics, if that makes sense. So just in July, actually it was late July, Bing announced they completed the migration of their old Webmaster Tools into the new. So that's awesome. Lots of new changes with that. They have a URL inspection tool, robot text file tool, so on and so forth. This may not mean much to you as a small business, but it should hopefully open your eyes if you do download or if you do install Bing Webmaster Tools on your website. If you run these tools, hopefully it'll show you if there's an error or if there's not, and it should compel you to call a marketing person or a webmaster, or if you can do it yourself, fantastic. But it should compel you to take an action, because these sites, they're not telling you this stuff for no reason. Again, this stuff may not seem like much, but really it can make the difference between being on page 1 or wherever else you show up. Best place to hide a dead body is on page 2 of Google, because ain't nobody going there. So when we look at this, platforms, they constantly grow their tools and resources, but believe it or not, all of these search engines have a common goal. They want us to be successful as business owners. The reason why they want us to be successful, they have a vested interest in this. So remember, Google can't sell ad space if nobody's using their browser. If nobody's using their browser, it's typically because they're not showing the right results. They literally, and this has been all over our world and the marketing world lately, but Google just had a huge little blip that happened with their search engine, and results went whackfish. Who knows why? They're never going to tell you, but they did at least acknowledge it wasn't a algorithm update. They just screwed something up. And so it just threw things crazy. So especially e-commerce sites, they went nuts the last few days. Hopefully it's been fixed. They say it's been fixed, but again, you can start to see how, vested they are. That this was probably a drop everything, fix it type deal. But again, back to the point is, these search engines have a vested interest. They want to keep consumers engaged. They want to keep them on Google or on Bing because they're going to sell ad space. That's just a simple number. They use that number to come to people like me and you as a business owner and say, hey, you know, we have 3.2 million people looking for chiropractors in Glendale. You should buy an ad. And wow, that sounds compelling. 3.2 million people. I need some leads. Yeah, that makes sense. So anyway, so Bing Webmaster Tools, just to show you, kind of go over some of the features. Again, these are pretty simple. There's 4 main ones that you just pay attention to. My sites. So if you have more than one site, it'll list more than one. Typically, we just have one. So when you go there, and I'll show you a little screenshot of it here in a minute, but my sites, well, you just click on your site. That'll take you to your dashboard. So once you have a verified site, you can go straight to the dashboard, so on and so forth. It just gives you an add-a view, more or less what we just saw with Google Analytics. Just gives you a brief overview of everything, how your site performance is doing, shows how much click, search appearances, how many pages are crawled or indexed by Bing, if there's any errors, stuff like that. So it's pretty useful. It's pretty right up front. Where Google, you have to dig a little for things. Bing is much more transparent. It's right up front, right in your face. They do have some comprehensive reports. So reports and data is for people like me. We're going to usually dive in as marketers, and we're going to go through and try to understand the analytics or help you as clients understand the analytics. We're looking for things like, again, time on site, bounce rates. We're looking for, you know, what pages aren't getting any love. Why aren't they getting any love? We're looking at other pages that are huge successes, and we're trying to understand that data that comes behind it to help you as a small business make better decisions. You can do all of that stuff on your own as long as you understand what that data means. So again, you can have SEO reports, site errors, search traffic, you name it, tons of information in reports and data. And then last is that diagnostic and tools. So I'm a pretty big fan of that. I run this on my client sites all the time, and it's only because it helps me find errors. The fact is, sites break all the time and for no reason. And you might think to yourself, hey, you know, I just built it and I haven't touched it, so it's not going to break. I can tell you, absolutely false. I'll give you a little blip we had, if you will. So being transparent, PHP is a coding system, if you will, on websites. And so a lot of forms are built off or use that type of language, that, you know, coding language. Long story short of it, the PHP was updated here about 2 weeks ago. And all of a sudden, unbeknownst to anybody, our forms stopped working on client sites. We didn't touch it. We didn't do anything. It was an auto update, like many auto updates happen. And all of a sudden something breaks. So then you got to debug. You go through a lot of things as a marketer to fix that. But the point of that is Diagnostic and Tools could have helped us find that instead of a client. So, you know, this is why we use these things. So other tools, if you will, are keyword research. You can fetch as a Bing bot. So Bing bot is their little coined term. Google says crawl. Bing has a coined term for it. Bing bot's kind of cool. But anyway, it'll show you what your website renders like in Bing's language. So remember, Google, Bing, none of them see what we look at as people. They just see the coding behind the scenes. So that's why a lot of times we try to reference when clients, hey, you know that really awesome picture that's taken up like 90% of your website right there? Yeah, no, search engines don't see that. So you probably should think about maybe add some more content. So anyway, Bing bot, awesome tool. Here's a screenshot of it. This is your My Sites. So it just gives you kind of a little overview here. If you had a couple of sites, this is what you're looking at, brief information on it, so on and so forth. This is a picture of the dashboard. So again, you can come in here, you can see, you know, how many pages are crawled, blah, 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 really any metric that you really want to see. And then again, Bing also does a really good job too. If next to site activity, anytime you see that little I for information, it'll explain the data that's in there to help you get a better understanding of how to interpret that. And then again, if you look at the left-hand side there, there's a ton of links in there that, again, you can look through any amount of data you want. So that's a portion of my piece. I'll come back here a little bit, but I'm going to turn it over to Collin real quick. So I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to send it over to Collin, and then that way he can start the social piece.
Let's do it.
Such a go-getter, Collin.
I
That'll wear in time.
hope so. Just kidding. All right, are we good to go? Everybody see the screen? Yep. All right, cool. So again, my name is Collin. Good work, Chris. That was nice. And as Chris said, everybody's going online. So it's really important to be able to track that data, be able to track your efforts to make sure, things are going as planned. So that's what I'm here for right now is we're just going to do a basic rundown of social media, how to check these insights, analytics. You may already know some of these things, but hopefully I can kind of give you some tips and tricks on how to improve that and whatnot. So let's go ahead and I'll just do a brief rundown of what we'll be talking about. We're going to be checking insights, analytics for both Facebook and Instagram, reach, impressions, how to define those things, and over time, how do you improve your reach? Because that's kind of what I want to talk about. As Chris said, you need analytics to be able to prove something. A perception will only take you so far. So that's what we're going to be focusing on. Right here is a client of mine, Bobazona, and they, so when you are wanting to track your analytics, your insights, it's important to know that you need to make a business profile. So a business page on Facebook, you need to make a business page on Instagram and make sure that it's in your niche, obviously. That way you can start to track the analytics on it and get the insights. It usually takes 7 to 14 days. And a little bit here too, this will kind of help as well so that you're driving traffic. Always have your website, directions if you're a storefront, and then quickly, what are you about? That's super important as well for helping increase your brand awareness on these pages. So if you're on Instagram, the way that you would go to it is you would go to your main Instagram profile page. It'll be a button you can select insights. Once you get in there, you'll be given 3 different categories. It's going to be your content, activity, and audience. My favorite that I like to use is activity just because it basically those 2 things I'm worried about, reach and impressions. So reach is going to be those unique accounts that are going to be seeing your posts. Those new accounts that haven't seen them before will now be seeing them. And then your impressions is how many times that specific post will appear on a news feed for your audience or through hashtags or whatever that strategy may be. And so that can be really valuable. And then as you see here, like we had 1,400 profile visits in a week, website clicks, get directions. So that's really important as a marketer. As a social media marketer, I can show this to my clients like, hey, we utilize this social media to get you these leads, these potential leads that are coming straight from social media. And so that's kind of important within marketing to be able to track those types of things. So, and then your audience, that's really good too about where you're trying to figure out who your customer avatar is you're able to, track exactly what age demographic are they in, where are they from, so that you can kind of fine tune that when you go, ask Chris like, hey, can you run this Facebook ad for me? You're able to fine tune who you're really trying to target. So that can be pretty valuable as well. Alrighty, so Facebook analytics, kind of like the same thing. You're going to be going to your main business page, and then to the right, you're going to see a More tab. So I'll go ahead and show that to you guys right now. All right. Everybody see the screen? Nod yes if you see it. Nope, you don't? All right, let's figure this out. Hold on. 1 second. There we go. All right, we see it now?
There we go.
All right, cool. So yeah, as Chris said, you want to do the last 30 days, not the 7 days, because the biggest thing is that week by week, your analytics are going to change and there's going to be red numbers at times. And I just want you to kind of focus on a few things here. So obviously page views are good because that means that a person saw content either through sharing or somebody commented on one of your business posts. And so they're coming to your page to check out what are you about. They're interested in your business. They want to know a little bit more and those kinds of things. As mentioned, reach is similar to Instagram, and you're able to check, what that means. They're really transparent about that. Page likes, stuff like this. There's a ton of stuff that, you can check out on here that kind of measures if the content you're creating really is pushing some sort of better result. This is 100% because they just opened like 2 weeks ago. So that's kind of why it's up there where it's new data. All right, I'm going to go ahead and head back to, sorry, this Zoom thing is new to me. So believe it or not. All right, back to here. So that's how you're able to check your insights on Facebook. As we talked about there, you can go and look at different categories and stuff like that. All right, so this is kind of my bread and butter, is also just being able, because I'm like a content creator. I like taking the photos and the videos and stuff like that, and posting those online. And so it's really about, and you hear it all the time, it's about consistency. So you want to have your OG, your original content that you are producing. And in addition to that, with your story mode, I like to get more fun with it, with sharing other pieces of content, sharing videos, sharing podcasts, those kinds of things. So consistency is a big metric that Instagram and Facebook check. They'll continue to put you in front of new people with your hashtag strategies, or if they see that you're improving with continuously posting, they're more likely to be able to show your content to other people. So I would recommend doing like 5 times a week and doing story mode if you can, just hopping on there, taking a quick video, saying, yo, what's up? This is my business. This is what I'm about. Those kinds of things can really help you on the spectrum. And then what I think a lot of people, I think this can be pretty helpful too, is a lot of people struggle with figuring out their hashtag strategy. Facebook hashtags don't work, so I wouldn't even recommend there. But on Instagram, I would recommend an app called flick.tech. So Flick will basically break down what kinds of hashtags you want to use for a post. And it'll say, okay, these are the low competition ones, meaning that there's 1 to 5,000 people that have used this hashtag in the past 30 days, or there's a medium competition, which is 5,000 to like 200,000 or something like that, and then high. And so it'll break it down so it's a little bit easier to structure, and so that you can improve that reach and improve those impressions and get higher analytics. So I would recommend that. Again, the OG content, don't boost on Facebook. That's something I was talking to Facebook about, is that they only do boosting because it's easy for an individual to be just press in. But she was saying that the reality, if you want to get the most bang for your buck, running an actual ad within Ads Manager is a lot more beneficial for your dollars. So I would recommend that. I know a lot of people like to boost, but I steer away from that. And then with Instagram, continuously fine tune your grid and strategy, make it aesthetically pleasing so that, when people go to your page, they know what you're about, they know what you're going to talk about, and do those kinds of things. So that's a really brief rundown. And if you have any questions, I think that's it. If you have any questions, just let me know. All right, back to you, Chris.
All right. So last but certainly not least, let's have some fun with Yelp. Yelp is my favorite. Sarcasm there. All right. I'm going to get this thing out of the way. All right. Yelp. Good old fun here. So love them or hate them, Yelp is one of those things that as business owners, you just have to love to hate. I don't know any other way to put it. Reason being is it is the default reviews engine for Yahoo Bing. So when we look at being visible, getting the biggest bang for our buck, Yelp does have a free profile, and you need to make sure that you send your clients there so that they can review you. Because again, if you've been in business for any length of time, you know how hard it is to get a Yelp review and to get it to stick. That's the key. To touch on that real quick before we get into analytics. So I've had detailed conversations with Yelp people about this. I know people that work at Yelp. I mean, everybody thinks there's some giant conspiracy, and maybe there is. I mean, I'm indifferent. I could care less either way. It sucks, and I don't like it. I don't like how their algorithm works. But the thing that I will comment on is that when we think about what Yelp is trying to do, they're trying to create the legit, most genuine reviews. Review fraud is horrible out there. Anything on Amazon, any of these, I mean, you know how it is. If you ever actually read some of those reviews, by the way, go look up like sugarless gummy bears, I think it is, or something like that. One of my in-laws shared that one with me. Lord have mercy. I will never unsee that. But anyway, lots of great material on there. But you have to look at what they're doing, and they're trying to create the best possible review, best possible, I guess, picture of the business. So again, love them or hate them, it's there, and we got to deal with it. So The thing that I want to highlight on Yelp here, they have their own set of analytics. And so again, it doesn't match up to Google. It doesn't match up to Bing. It doesn't match up to anything. It's their own deal. So again, what you want to do is pay attention to this stuff. The way that you master Yelp is really just to fill out as much as you can. They're going to try to nickel and dime you every step of the way. They're going to harass you and call you a million times before you finally give in, just to stop the phone calls. But it is what it is. You can do yourself a favor by coming in here and updating as much of this as you can. And ultimately, the more you fill out, in theory, the higher you'll rank on their algorithm. The more complete the profile is, the better you're going to do. Combine that with reviews, and probably a million other factors. That's how their algorithm works. So when we look at this, again, they can show anything they want, but this is the data that they show us, is how much traffic's coming to us. So if you are an avid Yelp user, if you're a restaurant or a business that, you do have a decent following here, those customer reviews are pivotal. You really, really, really need them. But again, for some businesses, and I hate to say this, but they are good. Yelp is a decent, platform for certain businesses. It's a good investment. For other ones, again, a marketing agency, I wouldn't use them. It's just not a good fit for us. But for a restaurant, a lot of people still use Yelp for that. I've seen automotive businesses. I've seen a variety of them. So I don't knock them. I think that, again, love, hate. I can't stand how many phone calls you get from them. But, other than that, it is what it is. They're just like every other platform. So anyway, so Yelp, pay attention to the analytics on there. Other important platforms you can look at, YP or Yellow Pages. I used to work for that company. It is a good platform. They do have good products, so I don't bash them at all. I think, everything has its time and place in the world. So when we look at that, these business listings right here, this is what Yelp is. It's a business listing. Super, super important. The last one I'm going to show here, let me get out of this. Oop. I'm going to show you guys Google My Business. And this is another set of analytics. Sorry to do this to you guys, but this is another set of analytics that you guys can look at. And again, you're interpreting the information. So again, Google My Business doesn't look anything like Google Analytics. Why would it? So we are going to pick on today. We'll stick to me. I don't need any lawsuits. So let's go through. Oh, that's on me. Ooh, Cheryl, can I show yours? Wait, Cheryl can't talk.
Yes, go ahead.
Woohoo!
I don't know how good they are.
I'm your marketing guy. Come on. Jeez.
I know. They're way better than they used to be, for sure.
So when we look at this is Trinity. So when we look over here, these are all the things just like Yelp. Make sure you fill them out in its entirety. Be as accurate as you can. But right here is your insights. Now, I do recommend to clients, download the Google My Business app. And the reason why I tell you to do that is because of this little booger right here, messaging. Clients can message you directly from Google My Business. And again, if you're tech savvy, if you got a smartphone, it's worth your time. But messaging enables cell phone or mobile users to message you directly. So think of it like two-way or text messaging. It functions much in the same, but you have to have the app in order to do that. So again, messaging is a great option. Download the app. But insights is really what we're looking at here. And again, this is going to be a 1 month query. You can go quarterly, weekly, but again, stick to these two. We're going to go monthly for Cheryl. And so this is a direct reflection of how her website performs, how she shows up, how Google views her. And so some of the strongest keywords that she has, chiropractor, which, pat on my back, just kidding, Cheryl. But chiropractor, that's the most appropriate keyword for her. That's also one of the highest traffic keywords out there for that particular industry. This is an awesome keyword to show up number one for. Chiropractors near me, this is their business name. This is a great way for me. This is what I use whenever a client says, oh, all my business comes from repeat and referral traffic. Well, Cheryl's actually, she's good. I mean, that's a number 3 most traffic keyword. People searching for her name. People searching for your name know you, which means that is repeat and referral traffic. That makes sense. But we come down here again, tons and tons and tons of traffic. You can go on for days looking at this stuff. I'm a big fan of graphs. I think we all are. Everybody loves circles and colors and fun stuff. So when we look at this is exactly what you want to see. When you're looking at Google My Business, this is how what's called discovery. Discovery are people who find your listing through search. So they don't know you, and that makes up 82% of her traffic. That's fantastic. Really, anything under 50-50, you might want to look at things. I'm not saying it's bad. It might be normal for your industry. But again, anything under 50-50, we have a little bit of problem. We want this curve to be where it is. We want new clients because that's what drives that revenue in. Existing clients do too. We don't want to forget about them, but we're hoping that they remember our name, they remember our phone number. So that's why you see less of it, which is good. This is ideal for what we're looking at. So in a given month, in the last 30 days, almost 1,120 people have searched for her business. That's how they came through, was 82% on search, 17% on direct. I'd say that's a great mix. If you go down further, there's even more data to look at. So when we look at here, we can see on maps and then we can see on search, two very different things. So a lot of people, they rely on that map section because it shows up first. So naturally, that's what they use. And you can see what that looks like. And again, hers are pretty competitive with each other. So there's not one necessarily that's better or worse. They're pretty much about the same all the way around. It does look like she gets more in the map section, which is great. But again, search is doing great too. And then customer actions, Customer actions, I love this one. My favorite is when a client tells me, I haven't gotten a single phone call. Well, I know you got 33 of them, so that's not true. Not that Cheryl's saying that. But definitively, we have 21 people that have requested directions. So you don't request directions to a business unless you're going there. So that's a great unit of measure to say, well, you had 21. We don't know if those are, existing or, new. So that we can't tell. But again, 21 people, that's a pretty good number. 33 people called. And remember, the call button, that's only for mobile. So that doesn't mean that's all the people that called her. That's not true at all. This is just from mobile. This is how many people that have clicked that, call feature from Google My Business or in the map section. And then again, direction requests, you can see that's fairly targeted right around her area. So that's exactly, this is usually a good indicator when you hire a marketing company. If, we were seeing this broad, really broad, like way out there, and all of a sudden it's like from East Mesa and there's like 20 requests from that would raise some red flags for me. I'd want to look at that. So again, this is all about interpreting data. And then last but certainly not least, phone calls. Believe it or not, this is a great tool to show, again, Cheryl's closed on Friday, so probably not going to get a ton of calls then. That makes sense. During her days or operations, you can see where this is. This will actually get with more calls. You'll actually get the popular times down here too. And so you can see, I have businesses literally because they know, man, I need to have more people on the phones in the afternoon because that's our highest call volume. So there's tons of information you can pull.
Hey, Chris, your volume is down.
My volume is down.
Oh, we can hear you now.
You can hear me now. All right. So anyway, I was just talking about staffing levels and understanding data. So look through that. It's fantastic. And last but not least, I want to show this because if I can beat something into somebody today, it's going to be this. You know how you never want to upload or you never have the time to upload a picture to Google My Business because you don't think it matters? It matters. People are visual. This is what we do. Businesses like you. Look at this. I mean, you can see just from the pictures on her Google My Business page, look at how much traffic this stuff brings in. Take it seriously. Google has these features. So again, if you do take my advice and you download the app, you can literally upload pictures like nothing. It's awesome. It's just like social media. So do yourself a favor when you're on a job site, when you're out in there, you got maybe something, you're doing something funny with your staff. I don't care if you're just sitting behind the desk and just having a Captain Morgan moment. Have some fun with this. Upload some pictures, be creative, showcase your products and services. It'll serve you well. Let's just say that. This is where you'd upload them if you're on the desktop site. Again, I recommend the app because it's much, much, much easier to do. But you can come here to photos. You can upload this. You can see Cheryl's pretty awesome at this stuff. So this one being a favorite. And then last but not least, up top here, posts. Posts is another must do. If you want to get serious about your marketing, you want to see what it does. Google's very fond of their own products, if you didn't know that. So they want you to use this stuff. Again, these are all pictures. These all go in. Look at Cheryl, staying on top of it. So again, I really, really encourage you guys, take this stuff seriously, pay attention to your analytics. If you need help understanding something, you want to go through something a little bit more in depth, please give me a call. I can't stress enough, I'm not going to sales pitch you. You're not going into some CRM that you're going to get spammed with a bunch of emails and stuff like this. Collin, myself, Tom, we all do this stuff because this is our give back to the community, and we want you guys to be successful. So, please take our advice. Please, heed our request to give us a call. Do yourself a favor. It's going to save you time. It's going to save you money and frustration. Most importantly, frustration.